It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join News Director Paul David and News Editor Philip Catafamo as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics in Yavapai County that affect all our lives. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you join us in studio. With us today is Sheila Stubler. Welcome back to studio. She is the Fort Verde State Park Manager. Fort Verde Days is coming up. Your 50th anniversary is coming up. Let's start at the beginning. It's the 50th anniversary of Fort Verde State Park. It is the 60th anniversary of the Camp Verde Colonel's Daughter Contest.
Yeah. And
it is either the 63rd or 64th annual Fort Verde Days.
That's correct.
October 10th and 11th coming up this weekend.
Yes.
So depending on who you talk to, it's either the 63rd or the 64th. But nevertheless, it's in the early 60s, and that's amazing. It's aged. Website is azstateparks.com. You can find out everything you want to know about Fort Verde State Park at azstateparks.com. How are you? I've been holding up in the COVID year.
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah? You came in here with all this stuff.
Yes, I wouldn't be Sheila if I didn't show up without props. So
you would not be Sheila.
Absolutely.
I was talking to Sheila before the show. Last time I had you here was the recession, 2008.
I remember it well. Yeah.
And we were doing staycation shows, and I thought, well, we got to have her come in and talk about that. But it's been that long since I've sat down with you.
It's good to see you again.
It is good to see you too. So let's talk first of all, because Camp Verde has put out some press releases of the Parks and Recreation Department about, of course, it's Fort Verde Days. The 50th anniversary is coming up this weekend, and Fort Verde Days is taking place this weekend. It all kind of coincides very nicely. But there's been some, will the state park be open for this, or will the state park not be open for the festivities?
Sure. Well, what we've been doing at Fort Verde is we're following the CDC guidelines and whatever our orders are that come down from the governor's office. So what we've been allowed is 50 or less people. We're in that phase that can come through the park, and that's the entire park. So that includes the officers' row. If they're in the buildings, it's 10 people or less per building. So considering that we have 4 historic sites, if you had 10 in each building, that's 40 right there. And then you consider, they do include in that number the staff and volunteers. And so we're very cognizant of it, and we pay attention to how many people are in the park. We use different numbers so that we know, so that we don't go above it, that kind of thing. So basically with Fort Verde Days this year, because it is our 50th anniversary as a state park, and because we were selected, the town and Camp Verde Parks and Recreation Department selected as their theme, celebrating Fort Verde's 50th anniversary.
Makes perfect sense.
So as that's the theme of the parade this year, it's business as usual as far as having less than 50 people on state park property. So there's been a lot of creative thinking that's been going into play as far as how to figure out how to do it, because of course it's unusual that you have a massive event like Fort Verde Days, and particularly with the fort's position where we normally have reenactors and everything like that, we've had to take a hard look at how we can make it work, and what things needed to go away, what things could stay. And basically what we did was we contacted all of our volunteers and said, here's the scenario. We want everybody to feel safe, because the state's, our perspective is, of course, safety and security for everybody. Whatever anybody's feeling, we go with that. So certain things that we could do, like the cannon crew, for example, they said, Sheila, we can't 6-foot distance.
Yeah, some of the things are not going to be happening this year.
So
you always have the vintage baseball game too.
Yeah, and what I did with the baseball is I sent out an email to all the players, and I said, if you can go ahead and provide some feedback on how you could play the game with social distancing, be creative a little bit and try to come up with some things. And so I was getting feedback from everybody on that, and then I would send it up the chain for approval and that kind of thing. But in the meantime, an article came out that said that we canceled the game, and so the article was already written. So So I don't believe we're going to be able to do the baseball game since that already happened.
Some things will be missing, but other things will be there. I know Michael Marshall at the Camp Verde's Parks and Recreation Department, he's sent us a few press releases about how they plan on, just like everything you have here. I mean, you've had to be extremely creative on how to manage 50 people within, and Fort Verde State Park's not a very huge park. How many acres?
11, actually 11 and a half.
Okay, and you've got 4 buildings on there, you said? Yep,
4 historic sites and a public restroom.
Yeah, and then you've got to keep track of all that, and you've got to sanitize all this stuff every time somebody touches it. So. And then I know that they've got a lot of plans in place.
They do. In
for
fact,
the parade and everything else that's taking place.
And the state park, our limit, we know what our limit is, and we're doing the best we can. And I also know we have met with Mike Marshall, and we've met with we had a meeting with the Camp Verde Marshal's office. We all got together and said, okay, this event's coming up. How can we work together? And are there any issues that we need to address in advance? And so we've been communicating about here's what our limit is. And Mike's been talking about how they're going to have extra precautions, the hand sanitizing stations. Their activities are not going to take place in the gymnasium. They're all going to be outside. Okay. So that's a start. And then he's been working on spreading things out so that people aren't quite so close. So everybody's taking extra precautions. The biggest thing is, just like life, things change. And so when you have schedules and things like that, you make additions and subtractions, and you try to give the public the most accurate information of what's happening. So
it's nice that something's happening.
Yes.
We haven't had any events at all this year. There's no music, there's no movies, there's nothing. So it's nice that Fort Verde Days is going to take place, and that they're going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the park, or the fort. I should say the park. It's the park.
2
right?
in 1.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So how about before we take our first break? We got a few minutes before we have to do that. We've got all this stuff in play and ready to go. So maybe one thing we should say is, if you're not feeling well, don't go. That goes with anything. If you're not feeling well, don't go. Stay home. And then maybe if you've seen Fort Verde State Park multiple times, maybe don't go into the park this time and let somebody who hasn't seen it yet. Maybe that will eliminate some of the crowd that goes through there. But I got to tell you, the place is amazing.
Oh yeah,
it's been there forever. So let's go back in time. Go back in time a little bit and tell us about the history. When did it start? Why was it put there?
Okay, so originally the fort was occupied 1871 to 1891, so for 20 years, and it was, of course, during the Indian Wars era. So it was built in response to the different raids that were happening. So the farmers and civilians had basically been demanding protection, and so that was basically the whole reason that the forts were built. There were 43 forts in Arizona, none with stockaded walls.
Really?
Except Fort Whipple. I did a little research and found out that they had a wall for about 1 year, and they took it down because they didn't need it.
I'll be darned. Okay.
I learned something new every day.
Yeah.
So then after the fort closed on April 11th of 1891, it sat vacant for a while, and then the Department of Interior auctioned everything off eventually in the 1900s to the highest bidder, which was Mr. Wingfield. He came out and he bought it for about $800 for the whole kit and caboodle.
Really?
Yeah, and whatever was left.
$800 for the entire fort and all the buildings and all the land?
Well, and whatever was left, because a lot of them were torn down. So
okay.
People needed lumber for fireplaces, for heating.
Let's go take that wall.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Well, no stockaded wall, though.
No, but the wall of the building.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
Whichever ones had lumber, because the barracks, those were all made of lumber.
Okay.
So literally, some of them were dilapidated. So when people needed wood, they figured, I need lumber for building furniture and homes, and so that's what happened with most of the other ones. Then what happened was a group of folks that were very concerned about protecting this historic site formed the Camp Verde Improvement Association, and so that was in its earlier years, and so literally people were doing whatever they could to preserve the history. From the Camp Verde Improvement Association, it then transferred or morphed into the Fort Verde Museum Association. And that was because they had some changes, and so they needed to do that. So that's the short version, the very short version summary of that. So then it was the Fort Verde Museum Association, and what they saw was as the increased need for doing repairs. And if you think about it, the guys that were stationed out here 149 years ago would have been rolling over their graves if they knew that people were still going through these adobe buildings.
Oh, totally.
And I mean, it's amazing that they're still there.
Yeah.
So as they saw that the buildings started to crumble, Adobe takes a lot of work to restore all the time, lots of work and lots of funding. So literally the Fort Verde Museum Association saw that they needed to do something, and Margaret Hallett, she was involved with that transition down the road. So eventually what ended up happening was they had realized they needed to do something more to protect it. They approached the Arizona Historical Society and a few other organizations about taking it over to help to save it and protect it. And basically the state was the last-ditch effort as far as trying to get it protected and make it into a state park. And that was really hard for them to decide to do that, because if you imagine, like the Camp Verde Cavalry, all these other places, groups, they did their activities on the fort grounds before it became a state park.
Sure.
So there was a lot of that ownership and that feeling of pride, and keeping that history alive and the traditions. And what do? You got to protect it, but at the same token, you don't have the funding to do that. So. Long story short, it became a state park, oddly enough, or uniquely enough, October 10th, 1970. And
perfect timing.
This Saturday is exactly right. Yeah.
October 10th.
Yeah, it's
2020.
Yeah,
it's amazing. We got to take our first break.
Okay.
All right. Fort Verde State Park Manager Sheila Stubler in studio today. The website is azstateparks.com. Visit Camp Verde's website for more information about Fort Verde Days. Stick around. Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Hi, this is Greg at Verde Solar Power. Arizona has lots of clean, renewable sunshine, and we want to help you take advantage of it with our quality solar installations, and we offer to beat any written offer on a residential solar electric system. So bring us your electric bill and let us show you how solar power will save you money. We're located conveniently here in the Verde Valley and are dedicated to helping the valley go solar. So remember, the energy solution comes up every morning.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Orkin has pest control down to a science.
When your business chooses Orkin's Precision Protection Program, you get a tailored pest control program for your specific industry and environment.
Your business can benefit from over a century of experience, training, and scientific knowledge that define the Orkin man.
Maximum protection, minimum exposure, backed by one of the industry's most comprehensive guarantees.
Choose your locally owned and operated Northern Arizona Orkin and get more than an exterminator. Get an expert.
Welcome back to Countywide. We're talking about several different things this morning. The 50th anniversary of Fort Verde State Park, the 60th anniversary of the Camp Verde Colonel's Daughter Contest. That's what we're going to talk about next. And then the 64th annual Fort Verde Days, which is October 10th and 11th. That's coming up. So again, you want to go to azstateparks.com for information about Fort Verde State Park, or you can go to Camp Verde, the town of Camp Verde's website, and go to the Parks and Recreation page and find out more about Fort Verde Days going on this coming Saturday and Sunday, October 10th and 11th. Let's talk about the Colonel's Daughter Contest. contest.
Sure.
When did that start, and how's that going to proceed?
Sure. Actually, 1957 or so,
Okay.
and so literally that was a group of businessmen that were in town, and they decided that they needed to do something to keep the history and the tradition alive. So they started the Colonel's Daughter. It's actually based on a book written with Charles King, and the book is called On Winning Her Spurs. And so the idea is that the girls that compete, they're Camp Verdeans, and they have to do the horsemanship component of the contest where they ride their horses. They have to practice like weeks and weeks before the event.
Oh, I
so what
bet
they
do.
Yeah, so they practice this routine. This year, because of COVID, they actually practiced at Reno de Loma, and because we wanted to make sure that they could still do their event, and we just kind of waited until we got permission. And then they had the competition, and it was at the fort, and that was Sunday, September 27th is when they had it. And that's when we came up with our numbering system to make sure we had less than 50 people. So it worked out really well. And and it was neat to see because that was the first attempt at trying to do something to see how successful it would be. And so what we did was we partnered with not only the Camp Verde Cavalry, but the town of Camp Verde. And what we did was we had the horse part at the fort, because of course you could be 6 feet apart because you're on your horse, right?
Yeah.
And we did the numbering system, had hand sanitizing stations, and had reminders about wearing your masks and things like that.
So kind of a trial run for you.
It was a trial run for
Nice.
us. And the thing is that we found that the more signage that we put up as people were walking into the main entrance, that people were like, we're just so glad that we can do it here, because it meant a lot, because it's their 60th anniversary. And so particularly, the Camp Verde Cavalry, Howard Parrish, was the only living founding member for this event. And he unfortunately has passed away since then, but he was able to know that we did the event before he passed. So it really was a sentimental meaning for all of us that were involved with it. So
a lot of us are familiar with Howard Parrish, for sure.
Yeah.
He's
So
been
our
there for a
hearts
long
go
time.
out to Betty and to the family.
Ryan's got a nice photo of him up that you brought with you, so it's put up on screen. So
the Camp Verde Cavalry did that event, and so everything tying in with the parade. The Camp Verde Cavalry was significant not only in doing the Colonel's Daughter contest, but they also participated in doing Fort Verde Days. And so when the first Fort Verde Days came about, it was a fundraiser for the Fort Verde Museum Association to raise money and donations so that they could keep the historic site alive.
Okay.
And so that was their form of a fundraiser. So it's, I don't know what the word is to describe how everything just kind of is tied together. But between our 50th anniversary and the Camp Verde Cavalry's 60th anniversary, and the towns with the Fort Verde Days celebrating it, everything, it's all tied in together. So for example, this weekend when they do the parade, it's really about honoring Howard Parrish. It's really about honoring the legacy that he leaves behind with the troopers from the Camp Verde Cavalry.
It's pretty nice.
It is, and when you think about how the towns come together, that's what matters. Is during all of this COVID stuff, people are coming together, working together, trying to collaborate, trying to do the best we can with what we've got and where we're at.
So you can tell by what you brought with you.
Yeah.
You truly have had to be pretty creative to come up with ways to make people feel like they're safe when they come in and go through the park. So that's a challenge in its own right there.
It is. I've always been a person who's tried to look at the silver lining on things. And so, yes, COVID's there. Yes, these things have happened. I always ask, because I figure if you don't get anywhere unless you at least ask, and a yes could be a yes and a no is a no. But if you keep asking, that yes just might be around the corner. And so I'm just fortunate. I think the park is fortunate that we do have a good group of people that work together, and that's important.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what you'll see. The biggest thing is that we're just asking the public to respect and help us with the guidelines that we have, as far as what we have.
You're doing what you have to do.
Park. We're doing what we have to do.
You're doing what you have to do. So really try to be understanding of that, and just it's not in your hands. It's out of your hands.
Exactly.
Someone else is saying this is what has to be done here in order for you to be open.
And speaking of being out of your hands, we will have hand sanitizer available at all of our stuff. So
quality. Let's take our next break. Fort Verde State Park Manager Sheila Stubler in studio today. azstateparks.com is the website you want to go to find out about Fort Verde. Go to Camp Verde's website, go to the Parks and Recreation page, and visit that for Fort Verde Days information. That's coming up on October 10th and 11th. Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Hi, this is Greg at Verde Solar Power. Arizona has lots of clean, renewable sunshine, and we want to help you take advantage of it with our quality solar installations, and we offer to beat any written offer on a residential solar electric system. So bring us your electric bill and let us show you how solar power will save you money. We're located conveniently here in the Verde Valley and are dedicated to helping the valley go solar. So remember, the energy solution comes up every morning.
So I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Orkin has pest control down to a science.
When your business chooses Orkin's Precision Protection Program, you get a tailored pest control program for your specific industry and environment.
Your business can benefit from over a century of experience, training, and scientific knowledge that define the Orkin man.
Maximum protection, minimum exposure, backed by one of the industry's most comprehensive guarantees.
Choose your locally owned and operated Northern Arizona Orkin and get more than an exterminator. Get an expert.
Welcome back to Countywide. We're talking about a few different things this morning. The 50th anniversary of Fort Verde State Park in Camp Verde. The 60th anniversary of the Camp Verde Colonel's Daughter Contest. Did you say we had a winner for that already?
Yes.
Okay. So the winner's announced that they're in the parade.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. The winner this year was Victoria Black.
Victoria Black is the queen.
So Colonel's daughter.
Colonel's daughter, not the
Yeah.
queen. That's for the rodeo that Prescott doesn't. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And then Mackenzie Milkhair was runner-up.
Okay.
Yeah. So kudos to the girls.
Congratulations, girls. Yeah, but they'll be in the parade as they would be. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And it's also either the 63rd or 64th. The town of Camp Verde's got 64th, but the Kiwanis have got 63rd. So somewhere in there, it's the annual Fort Verde Days, nevertheless, and it comes up on October 10th and 11th. And if you live in the Verde Valley for any period of time, you know that this happens every year. So that's a great thing to have going on. Volunteers.
Yes.
Let's spend a couple of minutes talking about the volunteers because they make up such a huge role for the park. And do you need more? And how about donations? Because you were closed March until June 1st. I remember you sent us a press release in June 1st. I mean, Fort Verde State Park's back open again.
Yeah.
But how has it been? You making any money? You got money?
Our agency's perspective is safety first.
Okay.
And so, while we do have restrictions and limits on how many people can come through, they just want to make sure everybody's protected and that they don't feel pressure that you have to have it. So the thing is that we've been actually just having a steady stream of people, and people that come to the fort are happy because they want to see a historic site and they're glad that we're open. So just celebrating the main thing about being reopened. And our park hours changed. So we are, instead of being 9 to 5, we're open 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. Okay. And that gives us a couple extra hours to disinfect all those doorknobs and make sure everything's clean. And anything that gets touched, we spray and clean.
The fort's never been so clean.
These hands are clean.
Yeah, right.
So literally, so that's what we've been doing. And then as far as volunteers, you can go to azstateparks.com, click on the volunteer tab. We definitely we rely on volunteers. Our volunteers, since the last time you and I interviewed during the recession, we've had so many volunteers that have stepped up, and we still need more people because that was in 2008. So a lot of those folks that are still volunteering have been plugging away, but we always need volunteers. So if you go to the State Parks website, click on sign up to be a volunteer, and you go through the process that way.
Some of them are reenactors, right? We've got about a minute left. Some of them are reenactors.
Oh,
right?
yeah, and the reenactors are the heartbeat of...
They love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I've had reenactors in here. They're amazing.
Yeah, they are.
They are detailed. They know exactly what everything is, and they can sit here and talk to you about it and tell you where it came from and how it came about, and what it's used for and what it wasn't used for.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it did get used for that as well. Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
So reenactors and then volunteers, and then you guys are always up for donations. Now, can they donate to the to Fort Verde State Park directly, or does it go into a coffer for all the state parks?
Well, we've gotten people that have written checks, or some people have done it on a credit card, but when you do a donation, we put it in a donation thing on our cash register, so it comes through so that we can give a receipt, that kind of thing. So yeah, we do accept donations.
And then
as well.
It stays in the park. It stays in Fort Verde?
If it's earmarked for Fort Verde, then it goes to Fort Verde.
Well,
so we
that'd
have
be a key thing too, because if I came and I was going to make a donation I was there at Fort Verde State Park, I thought, this does need to stick around and be,
And oddly enough, during COVID, we got a lot of other unique donations too that are historical. So it's pretty neat to see some of the things that came in. So the silver lining again, people cleaning out their places and finding artifacts and things like that they say this would look good at Fort Verde.
Janine Trevelyan from Sedona Heritage Museum comes in all the time with an attic story or this building in someone's backyard. We're out of time. But I just love the historical stuff. It's always great. So Fort Verde State Park Manager Sheila Stubler, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
50th anniversary of the park, 60th anniversary of the Camp Verde Colonel's Daughter, 64th annual Fort Verde Days, all on October 10th and 11th. As always, thank you for watching and listening. This is Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time.